Hello. So just want to be reflective as a lot has been going on. But here is the chair. And let me tell you about this chair. So this chair goes way back and it started with my brother. And it's significant because he is the only grandchild that received the chair. And so that's why it's so significant, because he was the one and only that received that chair. And so now, just by keeping the tradition going, because we are able, we know God is the ultimate, but we are able as a people to have families. And then once we learn about families and all the mechanics of it, then we are able to have a community. And once we have a community, we have to see how that works. And then the community is then plugged into this universe and how we are needed and a purpose in it for it to continue to go. And that is our input to it. But it took time for me to learn all of these things. So at first, just being transparent, during my videos, I was in a field of business. So I was learning that. And I try to teach my seeds that we go through different mindsets. So you may have a mindset to where you are in survival mode. And then after you have understood your survival mode and what that is and how to turn it on, how to turn it off, and how to keep it balanced, you are then taken to another level to where you have your tools. You have everything that you need, and then you have to utilize it. And that is a part of evolution, to evolve over time. And then you go in and out of these modes of survival, evolution, and then, like living and making things better. And it's all about, as people, we come into this world and we try to get our purpose together. And with that purpose, I'm sure it's common for us all to be like, well, what is my input to the world? I want to be one that helps the world, where you cannot help the world if you're not healthy. And healthy goes a long way. It goes mind, body, soul, communicate, like everything has to be healthy in order for you to produce wealth. So how can I be of any help if my thinking is not healthy? How can I be of any help if what I'm trying to communicate is not healthy? Now, we know sickness is a part of us too, and it's something that we all have to endure. Because if you're not sick in certain situations, if that what you are going through or the experience does not get you sick, then how will you know what a healthy mindset is? So it is a process that we all have to endure, and that some things in life we just have to submit to with no resistance. But God will let you know what those things is over your many lifetimes. And so with my seeds, so we go through the building of the family, knowing the roles of mother, father, baby, and child. And with that, then they have names. And then we all have last names that we carry, which is a brand. So I went through the family. I have my children, and we also have a brand name to carry. So I am a Oaks. And so that is now a brand. And so with my family and learning out the mechanics of my family, And I come from a family where they take care of children that are not their own. And that can be translated to a seed that may have, and when I say seed, this is a seed of, oh, well, I want a seed of growth, or I want a seed of strength, or I want a seed of humbleness. Well, sometimes you may get seeds that you are not expecting, or a bee pollinated something and it created something, and that seed just so happened to fall on your grounds and make something new that you are unaware of. This is a new seed, and you're like, oh wow, well, how do I do this? This is a new experience. Well, that is then translated over to parents of the generation, forefathers, whatever is mothering you at the time. We know that that can be broken down in many and seen in different ways, as well as the father and the forefather, which is can be broken down into pillars, and also whatever is parenting you at the time. And so, with that being said, and I lost my train of thought, but it will come back, and it just did. So now we have established that sometimes we can have seeds, and those seeds can be broken down to different things that we want out of life, and also as a physical birthing seed. So in my lifetimes, we have grandmothers that take care of second and third generations, necessarily not their seed, but that seed is now within their community. So we can go to grandparents and great grandparents as far as we can go back and remember, because sometimes we have these families that go way far back, but we were never able to meet them. So just like my brother, he was able to spend time with my grandfather Bill, but I wasn't. So he has that memory. Well, he has it for sure within the creation. I can only get the memories that are told secondhand and live through those through someone else's input, but he has the actual actions there to where he can pull out of his memory bank and reflect on them. I didn't get that. He did. And he also was the only grandchild of that first generation to receive a seat. So he has a lot of memories, and there has been things that have been set there, and we are able to create a creator, a producer, and a consumer. We are able to do these things as God has allowed us to, as they are gifts. But we are not able to recognize these gifts when we first enter into the world, because there is laws attached to these gifts. And if you are not prepared, or you are not in the environment to give you the instructions, you have to continue going on until you are placed there in perfect timing, as God is. And then you would gather these rules along the way, you will exercise them, and then the gift will be open to you to use, because we know that we have gatekeepers, and we may not know who those gatekeepers are or why they are gatekeepers. But remember, the angels were supposed to be watching over the Garden of Eden, and the serpent got in, and then we got kicked out. So there is a reason for gatekeepers. And all of those gatekeepers do not look like, they may not look heavenly. Some of those gatekeepers look mean and whatever the case may be. But if you relate it back to us, we all got somebody in the family that looks scary, that we call on when we in trouble and be like, we need your help. We all got that one uncle that's down the ride for any and everything that we just call. Those are gatekeepers. So it's also that way in the spiritual realm. You got to remember that Lucifer was one of God's most prettiest angels, but he had to put him in his place for purpose. And he is the ruler. He gave Lucifer that spot. So he still has power over that, even though Lucifer is programmed to think that one day he will get the ultimate cheese. But we know that we set mastery goals so that we can never reach them, to enforce the persistence. So if you thinking that Lucifer's team is going to stop, they are not going to stop, because that's what they was programmed to do. To make us better. If there is no Joker, there will be no saving. So back to a little bit more about this and the family, and then, finding your tribe, and then the community, all of that. So with the tribe, that comes with, so we got the family down and how that works. And even with family, that's very important. Some tribes, when they have a child, the name is really not put there because it's necessary for the person that is giving birth to the child to know that this is baby. Later on, there will be a name, but for right now, it is important that they call the baby, because the parenting needs to know that this is a baby, and then later on, this baby will have a name. And then with the name comes personality and training. But for one, you need to know that this is baby. And that came into my perspective at a later age, when my brother first had his child. He had a name, and he's named after my brother, but they called him baby boy. And his mother is of a different culture. So when it blended in with ours, we was able to see things a little bit from her side with what was shared, with what we was able to see at sometimes, because they live in a different state than we do. So he was baby boy. And for one thing, it had to be embedded in their mind first, baby. And if it's a baby, that means that baby does not know everything. You are in charge of helping this baby, taking care of this baby. Baby needs certain things or baby can't do certain things that parent can do. So then you realize the difference. Parent, baby. So baby, and then after baby came boy, which is the gender. So then you have baby, and baby has its own definition, and then you have boy, and it has its own definition. And so you have the baby. So the stage of the human growth, it is at beginner's stage. And then after that, you have boy, and that is translated into the gender role. So then you now know what role this baby will then be partaken in. And even in the gender role, there is still stages. And as that generation is coming up, that gender role may mean something else in that universe that has now been born. So you have to figure all of that out and how you contribute to it. After you figure out the family mechanicalisms, you then have, God will elevate you to a stage of community. Now, community, I was able to maintain occupations where you embrace humanity and your role in it and how it operates. So I was able to get that down, and now I'm able to learn different structures of the community and how my family, coming from parent, and then you can break parent down to mothering, and then mothering can be broken down to nature and nurture, and then you have baby, and that is the early stages of life, and then how y'all will commute together in vocalization and learning how to move as one. Then after that, it then develops as I had more children and we developed through all of that and whatever comes through those life obstacles. Now it is at the stage of community. And I'm able to embrace the community and how we need to go and function and within my leadership. So now my occupations and what I want has changed because I know my community, I want them to go a certain way. So I have a vision for my community, meaning I want my community, my family, because my family is now going to grow. We already have a 5th generation here, but to mine, this is the 2nd generation. So it's me, my children, and then now we have another addition that is adding on. And so now this family is get ready to turn into a community. And what would you like for your community to be as it is added to this universe? Well, you want a healthy one, right? So with a healthy one, you want to make sure that your children is going out and picking healthy people to add to the community. And with that being said, it starts at home. So they have to know what health is to generate wealth. And then that wealth turns into generational wealth. So with my community, as I go into occupations, when you look at the data and you're adding all of this stuff up, well, now it's time for a better platform so that my community can grow. And now the brand has oaks on it, but there's different branches underneath oaks. But it will have the brand name of oaks, but there is a lot that flows from it that is going to make the community thrive. So with that leadership, they have to always reach for more. And yes, you're going to have some in the community that is lacking, but God can use your good and your bad. So the bad influence can influence the good to keep doing good. And the good can influence the ones that are not doing so well to, hey, keep going. It's going to be there for you. Because without the joker, there is no saving. So yes, these imperfections will be in the community, as they should be, to let us know that there's a need there. There's always going to be something to fix. There's always going to be something that's going to be motivating us to keep it better and all of that good stuff. So as I realize this, my occupations, they change, and we keep going for a higher standard because within the community, they need to know, okay, we need people in business. We need people in the medical field. We need workers that are blue collars because we already know this nation is supported by the working class. So within my community, they already know that, hey, schooling is not for everybody, but you still have to be of the working class. You're going to need insurance. You're going to need life insurance. You're going to need license. You're going to need a vehicle. You're going to have to establish some credit. You're going to need somewhere to live. These are the things that as my community grows, we can be of help to the universe by having a healthy community that will blend in with other healthy communities. And that's how we keep the world healthy as much as possible, because we know that it comes with corruption and everything else, but the good always outweighs the bad. And we thank God for it to be that way. But this chair is just a representation of family, community, and how our humanity and humility adds to the world and makes it a better place for the next generations to come. So that's what all of this is about. And you know, the table, and I've been, we talk about the White House and all of these great things, and I tell them about this as it applies to themselves. When we pull in to our home, well, this is the home, but without us as a family, the house is not a house, because we have to run the house in order for it to be a home. And who makes up the house? We do. And so it's important that they needed to understand it and that we bring it to the table and talk. And as I have been asking God for a new profound language and to be able to connect with this generation and speaking life over them. So the speech of the house has changed. We have evolved. And I have to keep it going. And I also understand that within this generation, they speak multiple different languages. The language is already changing every day as someone is adding a new word to it. Also, the definitions are changing. And also, they're speaking differently. They speak through sign language. They speak through the clothes that they wear. They even speak a non-verbal speech. So when somebody does not say anything to you, that is still speaking. Their actions is speaking. All of these things are speaking. The colors that they are wearing is even speaking a language. So I'm trying to learn how to communicate. And you got to remember, these things have always been here. But was I able to understand the language that was being spoken to me at that time? I'm going to say no, because now it is here. So it has always been here, but now it is consumed. So we have God Almighty. Then we have the Creator. So we have the grandmother who created the giving of the chair. We have the forefather, which is the grandfather, who has the brand name of Oaks that we uplift as family, and then is turned over to a community, as there is a lot of branches that come from underneath Oaks. There is a lot of branches of different names that fit underneath that brand. That forms a healthy community that is able to go out into the world and make it a better place. Help to make it a better place. And so that's what this is about. So we have the Creator, the grandmother. Well, we have the Creator, which would be the Oaks. That's the brand, with the posture and that laying of the foundation. So God is Almighty. Then you have the Creator, which is the Oaks. That's the brand name. Then you have the producer. That would be the mother. She nurtured this nature. And we have a seat. Now we have a seat. It is here. And we are refining it. And as the refine is here, now it is being consumed by this generation. and it's going to produce. So right here we have the Purple Heart. And my dad, so at first I was like, yeah, I need to bring the chairs back. And when I do, we're going to have to do this. Okay. But remember, I didn't have the chair. So then my dad calls and he's like, well, we got these, looking around and there's these chairs, because his neighbor specializes in furniture. And he can take any type of furniture and do whatever he can, because he is a inventor with his ideas and how he can take something that looks like nothing and make it come back and be something. So he refurbished this and patented this chair. And also, I'm skipping around, but this is also historical, and I'm going to have Black history down like right here. This is also historical because we know with Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, those are the brand names, but it was a lot of people that had that same dream that made up of a community that pushed that message, that pushed that work, a community of builders, inventors, workers, ground workers. They pushed that. They pushed that milk. They pushed that Martin Luther King. They pushed the Rosa Parks movement. So yes, that is the brand name, but there is a lot of branches that fall underneath Martin Luther King, that fall underneath Rosa Parks, that help push that to where it is. So yeah, they may have the ultimate name, but it's a lot of people, lives that fall underneath that covering. Same thing here. You may have one name, but underneath all of that, it branches off to different communities and people that fought for that very purpose. Okay, so back with the chair. So we didn't have any chairs, but I knew what I wanted. I knew that it had to be wood. It had to be something of that nature. I think I wanted like wicker woven stuff, but that didn't happen. But we still got a leather white cushion there, and it is just as good. We love it. Perfect, Pops. Perfect. So he's like, Kia, got these chairs. You know, the neighbor he specializes in refurbishing furniture. He can take anything and patent it. And I'm like, awesome. So he sent me a picture. I said, perfect. And so I was like, so you're going to get it for me? Like a child on Christmas. So you're going to get it for me? He's like, yeah. Do you want it? I'm like, of course I want it. And he's like, okay, I'll bring them to you. And I'm like, yes, awesome. So we got our chairs. And Tania has picked some items to put on her chair yet, but she has not got the time to sit down and really do it and place her things on there. But she's working on hers. And I'm having conversations, and they see mine with Javen and Carson, and they are thinking. So we got them thinking. So that's a good thing. And then Tania is already at the point where she's getting ready to create. So they have already consumed. Now we're getting them to where they are going to be creators of this, and then they're going to produce. And this will be carried down. Even if it's not in a physical form, it will be told in a story form, which is still of a creator. And it should produce, and the children of our community will consume. And so now it's even got more to it, because my daddy purchased it. And my brother was the only one that was gifted with the seat. And that seat has survived. And my father now has that seat, has that very chair. And the table that I have, when I was a little child, it sits outside on my porch. But yeah, my mother surprised me with that years ago. Years ago. And when we moved in, she said, "Here is your table that you used to have a long time ago." And that table, I was little when I used to eat at that table. My parents were still together at our first location that we all shared as a home, and that was the table that was there, and I still have it, and it sits out on my porch. It's got a whole bunch of junk on it, and it needs to be cleaned. Yes, but however, this is my table that I used to have when I was a youngin'. Red, white, and blue. You see it's got the stars on there. Blue legs. Yeah, this was my table when I was yay high. All right, so back to the chair, and you see how we keep things. But that was my table, and I am get ready to be 39 this year. So yeah, that table is pretty old. So imagine how old that chair is. Me and my brother are 3 years apart, and it still sits to this day, and we all be sitting in it. Big as I don't know what, and that chair is probably about this tall with just the back, and you can imagine how the seating is very narrow, and we all be sitting in it. When we see it, something pulls us to it, and we be sitting in that little old chair. But yeah. All right, so here's the Purple Heart, and you know my dad is in the service, and he has a Purple Heart. Jumps out of airplanes. He leads his troop, and he has to lead his troop because what if if the Air Force comes in and they're on a plane, he has to make sure that they are at the right spot. And he told me he has no problem with telling them this is not the right spot. We're at the wrong location. Get us to the right spot because I got to bring my troops back home. And then, they have to check and make sure that their gear is right. And then they jump off, and he has to make sure that they are at the right spot. And he also has to get his troops back home. And then we have the ladybug. We get a little bit buggy sometimes. But that ladybug, and then the lemon. The black culture specializes in lemons. Because we will take that lemon and make lemonade. Then we have a green pepper here. So we know the Purple Heart stands for my father as he gifted this. And then it leaves out right here, and it kind of looks like a snail. Then in that shell is love. The ladybug, mother, and my mother actually has this tattoo on her hand. The lemon, because we specialize in taking anything, the power of alchemy, when we need to, and making it what it needs to be. Then we have the pepper, spice, that's that Cajun. Growth, vegetables, and all that good stuff. And then we have the date, 1923, and we have Garrett Morgan, who made the 3-way traffic light, because he is an inventor. Red, yellow light, green light. Right here we have the hot comb, and also other black hair products that was made by Annie Malone. And then Madam C.J. Walker is the one that helped patent the hot comb. And her name is Madam C.J. Walker, and she also has this quote: "Don't sit down and wait for the opportunities to come. Get up and make them." She also has another one. I didn't write this on the chair, But it says, I got started by giving myself a start. And then we also have the light bulb down here with flowers for inventors. Also, I have started a little bit on the back of my chair. Y'all know I like the cosmos, the space, astrology. So there's my alien. And I feel like we can all relate to the alien as we are brought to this earth and we don't be knowing nothing. We didn't come with any instructions. We just have to figure it out. Here is the button. Now look at this button. How you can look at something and you can say, well, that's a button. Well, I don't know. It kind of looks like a dice. And then it kind of looks like a bowling ball. So it's all about what you perceive. And then we have the moon. And I know I like the moon and the sun. 108. The distance. And now we are in a time where you can see the sun rise and set and see the moon. I'm like, wait, so I'm looking to the right, to the left. I'm like, I see them both up at the same time. Wow, that's amazing. So with my moon, he has on a nightcap, and this is his nightcap because, you know, nightcap. Hey, yeah, can I get a drum roll? Nightcap because the moon be doing his thing at night. So nightcap, and then he has his star hanging from right here. He, whichever one it chooses to be. And then the eyelashes because it's nighttime, so he's dozing a little bit. And she can also gaze. This is the telescope, the mountains, the surface, and then little cheeks, smile. And then right here, you see these. This is like the crevices that be in the moon, the craters. But also, you know, the blowhorn and then the flute. That's what these holes are for, to symbolize that, the instrument. And then, you know, the mountains. When we reach our highest peak, it is then we can see these things. And right here, the night, as he's snoozing for the dreams. So you dream and then you can open up your eyes whenever you're ready. And we translate the eyes to where whenever you're ready to take on this vision that you have, you can then open your eyes whenever you're ready and learn and discover it and do what you need to do and shine. Shine in that place that's kind of dark that you're unsure of. My little chiquita banana. That's my moon. Look at my alien. Boop, 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 boop. And my little button. But yeah, and I will add more to it. And this, they can add stickers. So me and Tania went out to this little sock shop and they had stickers for 5 cents. And she was able to get her some stickers and I was too, so they can draw, paint on this chair and add stickers. Silly stickers that say weird things. Because I got a couple of them too, but I just didn't want to place them on there any type of way. I told them to think about it, that it should have some type of structure, like set up themes, think about what you really want on your chair and what it's going to represent. But I said you can also have it spontaneously everywhere, or you can have it organized. It really should speak to you. So however they feeling that they want to express themselves, they can, and we know that this is a form of language. And it's a gift, know how we can express ourselves when we don't feel like verbally speaking. So there's the chair. And we love it. And so that's my time. Remember to give yourself your flowers.